the final table on the stone bubble here in event number 10. The first on the calendar, Tom Dwan. We talked about the chip lead, Sam Greenwood in second, and then Paul Phua and Kiat Lee, the two shorties. Payouts, $387,000 will go to the champion. $80,000 will be awarded to sixth.
Yeah. Oh, Kiat Lee's got it. I think we're going to have to go with this one.
By the way, the collision between the two shorties is an interesting storyline.
So look at the equities. 60-40.
So 1.35 in the middle. And to the flop we go, which is Jack 8-6. Now, the ace-queen slips to 29% on the turn. The board pairs. Kiat Lee is poised to burst the bubble, and he has done it. So
it sounds like they're kind of discussing how some people would maybe not prefer the pot limit structure, but worth trying out.
Uh-oh. Divorce is going to get a spin off of the shorty as Dwan wakes up with ace-king. Probably maybe a little bit more without. Oh, trip aces for Dwan. That does leave Divorce in, I think, draw Deadsville. What was the only path to victory for him? Because the king gives him the straight, but it fills up Dwan.
Yeah.
Divorce drew dead on the flop here, didn't he?
Maybe
I saw 4% for a second.
Can we chop?
Phil Ivey, 30 big blinds, the shorty. Dwan continues to be the big stack. Almost 3-1 lead over Badziakuski, by the way, who doubled through him.
6. Nah, just
it would appear so.
It's just, hey, you know what? If I just go all in, they can't play back at me unless they got it.
I mean, it's kind of irresponsible when we consider the ICM of 103,000 for fifth, 131,000 for fourth, and Ivey sitting with 28 antes.
Reaching for chips right now.
And
like,
yeah,
I'm done.
He's ready to go. A brief wince, as Dwan is obviously capable of waking up. And you see an eye roll there on Durr.
These guys not folding to me.
But it was always Ivey who was the candidate to call more so than anyone else, and he has flopped a queen in a gutter here on the ace-high board, just the 10 for Dwan, and on the river, Ivey will make Broadway and double up.
Let's see how things go. And this is a game where a lot of the important information is actually the pre-flop. Did this guy over limp? Did someone raise? How to define ranges? And then you see the flop. Apply that information pre-flop to the certain flops and then navigate accordingly. So for example, in this spot, you see him betting out with Jack 7. He didn't see the cutoff raise. He knows the dealer button is super wide because he didn't opt to raise with the 2 limps in front of him. So those big cards shouldn't be too strong for a hand on the dealer button. And even if the dealer button is holding like a king 6, it's going to have a lot of trouble even calling a flop up, potentially a turn bet.
Yeah, such a coordinated board there. You see Kiat Lee snap folding his queens with the gutter. 2 10s he needed, busy in Badziakuski's hand, as Makita will flat, and now makes a set of 10s, but the oh-so-coordinated texture, a 4-liner on the board, in short deck no less, will leave that set very vulnerable.
You know, this is actually a really interesting card because
Tom has the ace-X's, or no?
Because I want to say it's almost impossible for Badziakuski to have an ace. It's not impossible because ace-king would raise, ace-queen, ace-jack. These hands raise a lot. So you're telling me that Badziakuski is calling an ace? I'm just saying, I don't think he thinks that Badziakuski would call with an ace on the flop, like ace-5. Ace-5 is not even a hand in the game. No. Ace-6, ace-7, ace-8. So this is actually Dwan, once again, realizing the position that Badziakuski is in.
And barreling 300 into 450, which is 2/3 pot.
And he's going big because he wants to get like the 9x hand to get out of there. But man, Badziakuski sniffing it out, also has backup in case he is up against an ace.
Yeah, I'm not sure that this call is with the intention of being able to... As we see both players playing the board, so things got really uninteresting, but unimproved on the river. Let's say a 7 or a 6 rolls off. What does Badziakuski do in the face of another Dwan bet? I don't think he's going to look him up with a set of
No,
10s
he's
there.
definitely would be folding.
So
But
he was just trying to pair the board and beat a straight.
He was, trying to pair the board. Also, he doesn't, once he calls a turn, would never expect Dwan to multi-barrel.
You disappointed with this river?
Not ideal.
A mind that is sharp enough to be interpreting Dwan's move along those lines and in consideration of all those metrics and analytical points. Ivey jamming meanwhile here with ace-9 of hearts. Dwan's got hearts of his own, including the one beating in his chest, which is a lot mightier than the average.
So now it's just me and Ivey. He's reaching for chips. He's putting it in.
Wow.
Ollie. King 10 suited.
So Ivey is going to be just about a flip here.
Wow, I didn't
Believe
realize
it
it
or
was
not.
so close.
Yeah, I didn't either. And a 10 in the window favors Dwan as he makes the pair. Ivey with the gut shot on the Jack 7-10 board. And now aces for Ivey. But Dwan's got a Broadway draw. Instead, it is a 9 on the river. Aces up for Phil Ivey, and kind of on his own island with 65 antes. And then Kiat Lee with the 27 antes and the short stack. Jack 8 suited, Randy. We're getting our answer. A limp.
Yeah, a bit more limping.
Greenwood checks it.
Told Dwan might have just open ripped it, and look at that flop for Greenwood. He can maybe hit a well flush. Just flopped it.
Already has the joint. And he's firing.
It's kind of like what I said earlier, and when the dealer button checks, big cards don't really smash those boards, so that's why he's barreling away. Greenwood's like, man, do I raise? It seems like a... I want to get more money in, but I also don't want to blow away my opponent for making a big fold.
Well, you definitely don't want to blow away your opponent now, as you have the ace-high club flush.
Dwan saw his opponent call the flop, and he's firing away into the nut flush, just thinking Greenwood's range should be very wide, even if Greenwood has a hand like Queen 10. Is he really going to call a turn bet on a 4 flush? Greenwood going to try to look weak. Going to just look like, yeah, I'm supposed to call this hand. Maybe try to move me off of baby club.
Ace on the river does give Dwan a straight.
Now, Dwan's hand has enough showdown value here in case he was up against a straight himself or some 2-pair that didn't want to fold. I think he'd want to check. That's why it kind of looks like he's reaching for not too many chips, half the pot. But Dwan trying to talk himself into the call. Looks like he's going to pitch it.
Did we get the famous Dwan look? Is that it there over the shoulder? Like this guy. Yeah. Like
There was 3 different expressions in that one hand alone.
Oh, I love it. He's such a competitor. Either you know how to swim or you don't know how to swim.
I really don't know, because I used to know how to swim when I was a kid.
You're from Australia. How is it possible that a country full of water babies...
You know, right now, you're exposing me right now. I don't feel very well right now.
Well, Tom Dwan might not be feeling too well momentarily, as Phil Ivey is looking to expose 2 jacks to an ace-king. Dwan does have Ivey covered going into this one, but just barely.
Yes, this could be the...
And this is flippy here.
This is very flippy.
Oh, and the ace now could complete the demise of Tom Dwan. What is the turn? It is a king, and despite improving Ivey's hand to 2 pair, it does provide Dwan 4 new outs in the form of queens. 5 million chip pot, and the river is no help to Tom Dwan, who is left with vapors. 145,000 when the dust settles, as Phil Ivey will emerge, the overwhelming chip leader. Newly minted as the chip leader, blasts, and now Dwan decides King 7 offsuit is worthy.
Yeah, and I think Greenwood's laying down this ace queen.
Yeah, he doesn't want to, but just...
I mean, he's thinking about it, though. But this is a ton of chips.
I'll tell you what, it is the kind of spot where if all of a sudden he makes this call and ends up doubling through Ivey and showering Dwan with 4 left, he is a huge favorite to win this thing.
Greenwood Ivey so often in his spot. But if I'm up against Jack 10, that's a disaster. If I'm up against King Jack, laying it down.
Yeah, he said call and I win the tournament.
Call and win the tournament.
What was it?
And note Ivey with 9-8 actually is the favorite pre-flop. However, King 10-6 now turns Dwan into the favorite. But somehow he hits kings and 7s, which give Ivey the gutter. Now he needs to fill up, which he cannot. And it is the completion of a real tailspin here at the final table of the 30K for Tom Dwan, who is denied his 3rd title. And as we look at the chip counts here, Kiat Lee, 13 Annies. The bell tolls for him as he has already enjoyed a pay jump courtesy of that 5th place departure for Tom Dwan, $131,000.
Try to minimize the chance one of the big stacks play back at him.
Average next at 60K.
Ivey going for it, actually behind.
So the ace-queen is going to be a dog against the ace-king. Bad news for Ivey.
Yeah, 28% chance to win for Ivey, 10% tie. And he's flop top 2 pair.
Jack.
Cold, cold flop for Bads. He picks up some outs. Now, not just the king, but a jack would rescue him in this 2.9 million chip pot. And instead, it is running 10s. So Badziakuski gets cooler to finish in 4th place, and that is great news for Kiat Lee.
I see him pushing this in.
Call. Call.
Good.
And that king 10 gets looked up by Greenwood. And we'll play yet another almost 3 million chip pot here, Randy.
Back to back, all ends.
A 7-7.
That's pretty good.
And Greenwood is very poised to take back the chips he lost a pot ago, along with the remainder of Kiat Lee's stack. And that turn, the 8 of clubs, makes it official. GGs are issued as Kiat Lee is showered, and it will be the Canadian Sam Greenwood facing off against the American Phil Ivey, as none of our Far East competitors will compete for the title. There is a look at the official chip counts brought to you by GG Poker, as play is just about set to get underway here. Not long from now, payouts also on display, dividing the 2 stacks.
So we're now continuing to see this limp pot fighting.
Aces and 6s for Greenwood, who continues to get hit with the deck here against Ivey, who is sprinkling 75K. Just trying to find out whether or not he's going to win one pot against this guy.
And once again, Greenwood putting in more chips. Ivey with not much of a hand. Turns to set though. That is unexpected.
No kidding. The 9 of diamonds, a beautiful arrival for Ivey, and certainly not the kind of card that rates to be of any sort of concern for Greenwood.
Greenwood's really underplayed his hand by just calling the flop of a6. Turns a bit troublesome since a straight is out there. We'll just call, I imagine. Don't want to bloat the pot on boards where someone could have a made 5-card hand.
And that is the kind of card that absolutely could freeze the action. 7 of clubs, puts 4 to a straight out there and completes the flush. So you see the 2 quick checks, and Ivey may have stood to make some more there, Randy, bar that 7 of clubs arriving.
Stick to the limping strategy for Ivey. Jack 8. Enough of a hand for a check.
Queen 7-6, top pair for Ivey.
Ivey laying the trap, Queen 10. No bait. Greenwood turns a 6. Very, very dry board. Ivey, while probably thinks he's got the best hand, might want to pot control with trip 6s being a possibility. If your opponent is holding a pair, he doesn't have much chance anyways. But maybe you induce a bet sometimes. That looks like I want to bet just how much. Trying to rep that 6.
$160 into this 240.
You can see he's kind of going a little bit more sizable, knowing that if he wants to represent that strong of a hand, you'd want to bet bigger. Gets called.
Of course, no need for Ivey to be looking to make this any bigger. Now the 9 on the river. Queen 10, fairly vulnerable against the any 2 range of Greenwood on the button.
Small factor holding the 8 is you do block ace 8. That might check call a turn bet. I wouldn't think Greenwood would expect to be up against 10-8. 10-8 wouldn't really be check calling. If he wants to bet, he's probably going to opt for a bigger sizing, trying to continue the story of having trip 6s. And he's doing that. Wow, it's like exactly pot size. Ivey, gotta remember, last time he called roughly pot size, he was wrong against the 10-8 straight. And there is no obvious draw out there. So it seems credible, but Ivey's usually one step ahead.
560K. We already saw Greenwood put an overbet of over 900,000 out there on a prior occasion. This not an overbet, but certainly a big one.
Yeah, it's actually a very tough spot. Because the 9 would give showdown value to those obvious draws, like the 8-9, 10-9, that might take a stab on the turn. We've got the history from the prior hand. When he hero called and was wrong, with a queen as well. Lots to think about. The fact that Ivey didn't bet any street may make it seem like he's more likely to be holding a middling pair, like a 7. Oh, touching those chips again, trying to make a decision. He seems pained, but Ivey's good at making the call.
Yeah, and he does exactly that. So Greenwood gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar as Ivey sniffs it out with queens and sixes there.
This is what's tough about playing Ivey. When he makes a great call on you, you feel a little deflated.
I'll tell you what, Greenwood knows he's got his hands full here, not only just due to the reputation, but just take a look at his career Triton record. The 2 titles, both coming in short deck events. This man understands the game. Turn in position. So there it is, 6.83 to 4.57. Current state of affairs here. Jack 10 limps. Queen 9 says, let's go. Nine in the window, followed by queen and another 9. Greenwood smashing the flop for a full house. Ivey open-ended.
Well, Greenwood's like, I smashed it so hard, but I want to start developing a pot in case you got a little piece. You notice he bets the minimum. Like, okay, don't want you to fold your little weak gut shots. Let's see if Ivey calls. Yes. Well, that is what I call an action killer.
Yeah, the board double paired now, so Ivey's open-ender. A lot less attractive than it was on the flop.
Ivey thinking about leading. He's like, well, I just got jack high. I've got equity against ace highs and king highs in case I'm wrong.
And I can clear all kinds of things with this bet. But the 10 and the jack in his hand, are those maybe suboptimal cards with which to make this play?
Suboptimal for sure because you block the hands that you're trying to fold out. But then again, we're playing short deck, so how many other cards can you have, right? Like, you're going to tend to block hands a lot more in this game. Does peel, of course.
Oh, and Ivey makes the straight. Hearts get there.
Troublesome.
Yeah, Greenwood didn't want to lose his man just yet, and this is a river card that is working to try to get Ivey to bet again, but of course, once you get called on that double paired texture and the heart rolls off, which is, if it's not, you're up against a 9 or a queen, the sort of range of hand that you would think would be willing to continue on a draw.
I wonder what Greenwood's going to do here. It's so hard for Ivey to have a hand that can pay off that leads the double paired board and checks. Gonna take a shot at it. Greenwood trying to represent a hand like King 10 and King Jack that might have got ambitious on a turn. Ivey has read situations pretty well lately in this heads up.
I mean, 10 Jack. We unblock the hearts. We block the
King 10,
sort of
King
rando missed draws.
Good lay down.
Great lay down.
All in.
Yeah, he's going to jam.
I think King Queen's good enough here. Yes, you could be up against Ace Queen, Ace King, but we've seen Greenwood jam King 10 suited, so King Queen.
Oh, yeah,
would
and
have to
Ivey is going to make the call. We're going to play a 7.7 million chip pot here, and it's 2 overs against the pair. To a big blow on the flop. Queen, Queen 8. And Ivey has Greenwood in a world of hurt.
10.
Even if Greenwood were to fill up with a jack of clubs, Ivey would draw live with that king of clubs to a flush. No club on the turn, however. Greenwood did pick up a straight draw, and instead Ivey makes quads on the river. And with that card, Sam Greenwood finishes in second place, and Phil Ivey is your event number 10 champion. Final payouts. The distribution of the $1.14 million collected in total in this $30,000 buy-in event